My belief is that about 80% of success or failure, maybe 90%, is caused by either clarity or lack of clarity. If successful people have one common characteristic, they're all very clear about who they are and what they want, and they have clear written plans to achieve their goals in each key area of their life. Unsuccessful, unhappy people who are troubled by stress and anxiety are very unclear about who they are and what they want. And so therefore they move from pillar to post. They're knocked off center very, very easily by unexpected events. So what we do in Focal Point is we start off with the principle of clarity, and we teach how to achieve clarity in the 7 key areas of life. The first area is business and career, in family and personal relationships, what it is you want and how you can get it. In financial life, how do you achieve financial independence specifically? Health and fitness, how do you live to 80 or 90 years old? And then we talk about clarity with regard to personal and professional development goals, social and community contribution goals, and inner and spiritual development goals. So therefore, what a person gets is a complete approach to life with clarity in each of the 7 areas, and then they all fold together so that they work in harmony with each other. Most successful people in our society work 4 or 5 days a week. They took 2 or 3 days off. They take long vacations. They go home at night. They get vastly more done when they work than the average person, whereas the average person feels overwhelmed with work. Too much to do, too little time, completely attacked on all sides by all kinds of conflicting responsibilities, and they can't understand why some people seem to be doing so much better than they are. People who are doing extraordinarily well. They're earning 5 and 10 times as much as other people in their field, and they take lots of vacations. They're relaxed, they're fit, they play golf and tennis, they go to Hawaii or the Caribbean. And you say, how can these people be doing so well and yet be working less than people who are blowing their brains out? And the answer is that they're focusing in on the few things that they can do that contribute the greatest value, and they just simply outsource, delegate, eliminate everything else. And as a result, they have lots more time off in their personal life, and they make much more when they work. I realized that all of life is the result of accumulation, and we call this the process of continuous improvement. So we found that if you get a little bit better every day, almost immeasurable, and a little bit better every week, and a little bit better every month, over time, like a snowball, it accumulates to a huge amount. And I worked out that if I could become 1/10 of 1% better per day, 5 days a week, I'd be 0.5% better at the end of the week. If I did this for 4 weeks in a row, I'd be 2% better at the end of the month. If I did this for an entire year, I'd be 26% better. Like 52 weeks times 0.5% is 26% better. If I did this, and it compounds because I compound interest, if I did this for 2.7 years, I'd be twice as productive. And if I did it for 2.7 years more, I'd be twice as productive again. If I did it for 10 years, I'd be 10 times more productive. Began to go to work, and we teach this in Focal Point. Began to go to work on the most important things that I could get better at, and using my time better, and being more focused, and being more punctual, and setting better priorities, and learning more things. Well, do you know what happened? I increased my income by 10 times in about 3.5 years, and in the next 7 years, I increased my income by 10 times more, so that after 10 years, I was earning not just 10 times as much, but 100 times what I was earning when I started. And I've taught this to people all over the world.
That's amazing.
And they come back to me and they say, after a few years, they say, that's incredible. After 5 years, I'm earning 10 times what I was earning. Next year, I'll be earning 12 times. And I mean, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times. If you get just a little bit better every day, by design, not by chance, the cumulative effect in your life is extraordinary. And this explains the great success of all men and women who start with nothing and achieve greatness. Basic time management rule is the 80-20 rule, which says that 80% of your results will come from 20% of your actions, your work. So therefore, what we help people do right from the beginning is to say, what are the 20% of your activities that contribute 80% of the value of all your work? Let me give you an example. A businessman will say that 80% of my sales are coming from 20% of my customers. However, it also means that 80% of my expenses are coming from the 20% of my customers, or the 80% of my customers represent only 20% of my business. So what they do is they fire all the customers, keep the top 20%, the ones where they make the most money, the ones who are the happiest, the ones who complain the least, the ones who pay their bills the most rapidly. And then they say, how can we get more customers like these ones in the top 20%? and suddenly their business doubles and triples, their profits go up, their costs go down, the amount of money and time spent servicing customers diminishes, everything changes, and changes sometimes in a matter of 30 days.
Wow. That's amazing. And satisfaction goes.
Yes, of course. One of the things I tell people is only sell to people that you like and enjoy.
Right.
And get rid of anybody else that you don't like and enjoy. Encourage them to go and ruin your competitors' businesses, and ruin your competitors' peace of mind. And people say, well, how can you do that? Well, when you start off in business, you're desperate, so you sell to anybody who will buy. But as you get further along, you realize, hey, wait a minute, a lot of the customers that I'm servicing today are not really great customers. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have them. Good, you have a choice.
Right.
Help them go somewhere else.
Right.
And use that same energy and concentrate on those customers that are worth 5 and 10 times as much to you as the ones that complain and don't pay their bills. Last month, a woman came through the course. She went to her boss and she said, what do I have to do to double my income? He said, well, we'd have to restructure the work so that you did more and more of this and none of these other things. She said, well, if I do more and more of this and get these results, can you pay me twice as much? He said, you do it, I'll pay you twice as much. She couldn't believe it. She got double her income in one meeting. Because bosses, remember today, if they're worth anything, pay on the basis of results, not hours. So if you can offer to contribute twice the results by working on the things that you do really well and getting rid of everything else, most bosses will pay you. I mean, what the heck? Then you make a list of everything you do. And let's say you do 10 or 15 things. And you ask yourself this question. If I could only do one thing on this list and do it really, really well, what one task or activity would make the greatest contribution to my work? And then you say, well, if I just did that more and more and none of the other things, I could earn twice as much, contribute twice as much as I'm contributing today. So you go to your boss and you say, boss, I've looked over this and I found if I could just do this all day long and do it really well, which I'm committed to do, I could contribute twice as much value. And your boss, who hasn't thought about it, will say, yes, that's true. If you did that all day long and did it really well, you say, well, could I get twice as much money? You say, sure. If you do it, you see, many people think, well, I want you to pay me twice as much on the off chance that I will carry out my offer to you. No, what you do is you say, if I do this, will you pay me twice as much? Boss says, sure, it's nothing to lose because you're going to have to contribute vastly more to do it well. Boss will say, sure. I'm a boss. I own 3 companies. If somebody comes to me and says, look, I'll double the sales, I'll double the profitability. If you pay me twice as much, I say, absolutely. Yeah. No problem.
No lose proposition.
No.
Right. That's great. Another concept you talk about that really got me thinking was this idea of zero-based thinking. And many people have heard that applied to looking at a business. Can you talk about it, though? Number one, what is zero-based thinking, and how do you apply it to your personal life to really help to restructure and reinvent your own life?
Well, I think that zero-based thinking is perhaps the finest thinking tool that a person can have for the rest of their life. And it's very simple. You look at any part of your world and you ask yourself, is there anything that I'm doing today that, knowing what I now know, I wouldn't start up again today if I had to do it over again today? Well, it's a very simple question. And the way that you can tell if you have a zero-based thinking situation in your life is stress. Is wherever you experience chronic stress, that means stress that nags at you day in and day out, you say, with this person, situation, job, activity, knowing what I now know, would I start it again if I had to do it over? And if the answer is no, I wouldn't, then the next question is, how do you get out and how fast? Because there's a rule that things left to themselves go from bad to worse. They don't just clear up. It's amazing how many people are sitting in a bad situation hoping that things will just clear up. Mm-hmm. They'll get better. Someone will come along and resolve the situation. It'll go away. So I say there's 3 key areas. Ask yourself, is there any relationship in your life, business or personal, that knowing what you now know you wouldn't get into? Most of our stress in life comes from unhappy relationships that aren't working out. Mm-hmm. That's at work or at home. And if there is, then the question is, how do you get out of this and how fast? Mm-hmm. Because there's a rule that we teach is that people don't change. People are what they are. They've always been that way. They'll never be any different. So don't hang all of your hopes for happiness on the off chance that somebody might change, because they're not going to change. Mm-hmm. That's the way they are. The second area we say is with regard to your business, is there any product or service? Is there any process or expense or advertising or anything that you're doing today that, knowing what you now know, you wouldn't get into? Let me give you an example. One of our students, he was commissioned by his company to find a way to improve the efficiency of their nationwide a network of warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew nothing about it, but he went in. His starting point was, should we have all these warehouses in the first place? And then what he found, because of Federal Express, because of UPS, because of flights and everything else, when the company started, they needed 12 warehouses to cover the country. However, he recommended that instead of improving the efficiency of the warehouses, they get rid of 10 of them, have one warehouse square in the middle of the West in Denver, one warehouse square in the middle of the East in, say, Memphis or Atlanta, that service the whole country, get rid of all the others, and dramatically increase their efficiencies, which they did, and they saved $275 million.
Wow. Huh.
Keep asking, in any part of your life, should we be in this area at all? And if not, how do we get out and how fast?
That's great. Those are great questions to ask. You're also well known for acronyms, and perhaps the best acronym that I found that described Focal Point was the Grand Slam method.
The word SLAM is the key. It has 4 letters, SLAM, which stands for Simplify, Leverage, Accelerate, and Multiply. Now, simplify means that you're constantly looking for ways to simplify your work and your personal life. We show that every additional step in any process dramatically increases the complexity of the process and the length of time it takes to do it. So we show people a whole new way of thinking in terms of simplification, and there's much more to it than that. The second is leverage. How do you leverage yourself? How do you leverage yourself times other people, times other people's knowledge, times other people's money, times other people's energy, times other people's skill, and so on? Because all successful people leverage themselves. They use themselves leveraged against other people to get vastly more done than the average person. The third letter, accelerate, means do it faster. We find that you can do a task slowly or quickly with the same level of quality. So we find that all successful people move fast. All unsuccessful people move slowly or when they get around to it. And the fourth letter is multiply. How do you multiply yourself? How do you delegate? How do you outsource? How do you eliminate? How do you downsize? How do you use every resource in your environment to multiply your ability? And these are the 4 keys: simplify, leverage, accelerate, and multiply, that enable people to go from rags to riches in 1 generation. We teach a complete process of time management that's a little bit different from other people, but it basically forces you to think through everything you have to do before you begin. Other than that, you'll have a tendency to react impulsively. And if you react impulsively, you'll find yourself spending more and more time on items of less and less value.
Right.
And pretty soon the day is gone and you haven't accomplished anything of importance. So therefore, the key to acceleration is to be very clear about what's most important and then do it quickly and do it now. In times of rapid change, you also have times of great turbulence, which means that all bets are off all the time. One of my favorite lines is that in this modern economy, you have to be willing to throw out all your assumptions every 3 weeks because things are changing so quickly. One new piece of information can totally change all of your thinking. One new competitive strategic step with a new product, a new service, a new advertisement, a slash price can totally change what you do in your business. So you can spend weeks and months coming to a conclusion, but some external event can force you to change quickly to survive. And that's why flexibility means you've got to be willing to constantly be open to the possibility that you're on the wrong track. With new information, you've got to be open to the possibility that there's a better way, that you have to change. And people who are flexible are far more open, they're far more creative, they're far more optimistic than people who are inflexible and rigid in their thinking. So again, the Manager Institute has said that flexibility is the most important single quality for success in the 21st century. Some years ago, we started a program in San Diego called the Focal Point Advanced Coaching and Mentoring Program. And what the program is based upon is really 4 keys. The first is clarity. And we find that if people become extremely clear about what they want in each area of their life and crystallize it into goals with standards of performance and action steps, they begin to move ahead at an incredible rate. The second part that we teach in the coaching program is what we call a simplification, which is to simplify your life so that you can take vastly more time off. As you know, we call this the double-double formula, how you can double your income and double your time off at the same time. And it seems counterintuitive, as we talked about, because it's hard for people to think that by working less, I can earn more. But we do have people who come through our program, and we say that in a year to 2 years, you'll achieve this goal. Many of them achieve it in 30 days. Some people literally walk into the program and walk out, and the next day literally transform their lives simplify it dramatically, stop doing things that are of no value, just cut them off like a meat cleaver, just
Right.
stop doing them, and then start focusing on getting better and better at the one or two things they do that pay them the most. And suddenly their incomes double and their time off increases dramatically. Their relationships with their families improve. They have more time for health, vacations, travel. It's almost amazing. One of the things that people have to understand is that the whole purpose of working is to support your ideal lifestyle. So in the first part of the program, Clarity, we help people to define what is my ideal lifestyle. If my lifestyle were perfect, if I had millions of dollars in the bank and I could do anything I wanted to do, what would it look like? And then we bring it right down to reality and we say, what steps could we take today to begin creating that perfect lifestyle? Then we show you how you can simplify. One of our principles is that the only way you can simplify your life is by stopping doing things. You can't do more things more efficiently and effectively. You have to stop things that are muddying up your life. The third principle we teach is what is called maximize. Well, how do you maximize your talents, abilities, skills, opportunities so that you're getting the very, very most out of the energy that you put in? Remember, some people work 8 hours a day and make $25,000. Another person working in the same company, out of the same office, working with the same customers, will make $250,000. And they're selling the same product to the same people at the same price under the same conditions. They're working at desks next to each other. One person makes 10 times as much as the others. Why? That's what we explain. And we show you how to do it. And the final part is what I call leverage. How do you leverage yourself? How do you get the very most out of every part of your life? And the coaching process is really interesting because people, first of all, do pre-work. In other words, they answer a series of questions so they come fully prepared. And then they do 8 hours of work with me and other very successful people. And they come out of it with an action blueprint, which they then follow for the next 3 months. Then they come back after 3 months and do it again. What happens is within 1 year, people's lives transform. Sometimes, as I say, within 30 days, sometimes in 24 hours. Because for the first time, it's like somebody ran inside their brain and turned on all the lights of their possibilities. And suddenly they can see themselves in their life better than ever before. So one of my favorite stories, which is in the program, is a gentleman, an old friend of mine, working his heart out 12, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week, and never spending time with his family. Hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. He came through the focal point process. His arms were folded, very skeptical that it's possible to work less and make more money. But he realized that it was true, and so he did what all superior people do, is he acted on new information. Most people will hear what we talk about, not act on it.
Right.
But the very best people will take it and run with it like a football player catching a fumble and running for yards. Well, he went back and he analyzed his clients. He realized that it was not 80-20, it was 90-10. About 90% of his business was coming from 10% of his clients. So he decided to just draw a line at the 20% mark, took his bottom 80% of clients and began to parcel them out like dealing cards to other small companies that could service them better. He began then to really focus on his top clients and to really work them, excuse the word, for referrals. Who else do you know in your level would be interested in working with me and my company? And you know what? They said, I'm glad you asked because I've been willing to tell you for years, you just never asked. So he began getting referrals like a frog jumping from lily pad to lily pad. He began getting referrals from top people to top people to top people. In less than 6 months, he tripled his income. He increased his time off to 1 week per month. He started taking vacations with his family. He started exercising again. He just lost 22 pounds. He literally transformed his life, and his income went up by 3 times. There is a single secret of success, and it is this. Do what you resolve to do. Do what you have decided to do. Fulfill your promises to yourself. If you say you're going to get up early in the morning and exercise, just do what you said you would do. If you say you're going to save, then save your money. If you say you're going to write down your goals, do it. If you're going to listen to audio programs in your car, just darn well do what you resolve to do. Fulfill your commitments to yourself, and your whole life will be wonderful. Use of time is to work intently on something that need not be done at all. And one of the things that is holding back entrepreneurs, business owners, it's killing them, by the way, and it's wiping out an entire generation, is this obsession with technology. I see people that are walking with their phone. It's almost like drug addicts that are mainlining. The fact is that this obsession with looking at the screen and staying connected is killing people.
because it stops them from focusing.
Warren Buffett was at a dinner party with Bill Gates and Bill Gates Sr. And they were talking together because Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are good friends, have been for a long time. And Bill Gates' father, very, very successful businessman in Seattle. And somebody came up to them and asked them a question. Gentlemen, excuse me for interrupting you, but we've just been noticing you talking, and we had a question for you. What would you say is the most important skill for success? And they all three turned to him and said the same word simultaneously. Focus. Focus is the key to success. That's why I'm so concerned about I call it the attraction of distraction. It is so disturbing because it guarantees failure in life. You actually become addicted to distraction and you can't stop it. And if you are addicted to distraction, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, you haven't got a chance against someone who can. And so distraction, technological distraction today is killing you. It's destroying your hopes for your future. It's keeping you busy, and at the end of the day, you've accomplished nothing, and you're exhausted. You haven't even really thought about how much time you spend during the day distracted. And the answer is about 80%. And the rest of the time, by the end of the day, you're too tired to do anything worthwhile, to do the really important things that have big potential consequences. According to a recent report, at the end of the day, of a typical day today, the average person's IQ has decreased by 10 points. That means throughout a distracting day, you get stupider all day long. And by the end of the day, you're just plain stupid. It stimulates your mind so much that what happens, every stimulus triggers dopamine, and dopamine has the same effect as cocaine on your brain. It's a stimulus. You cannot not watch your computer. I mean, many people get up in the middle of the night and go and check to see if there's any email, any spam. Then they go back to bed. They can't sleep. I ask my business clients this. I said, why are you in business, and what's the purpose of your business? Well, if that's what your business is, then do you spend all of your time making sales and profit? You know what? The average business owner today spends only 11% of their time in marketing and sales. All the rest is distraction. And they don't even realize it until somebody follows them around with a camera and a stopwatch. So I'll give you a very simple way to double your income. Here it is. It's when you start in the morning, leave things off. Don't check your computer or your iPhone or your anything else. There's nothing there that's important. Don't turn it on. Leave it off. And the rule for success today is leave things off. Leave things off. So the reason you're in business is to generate sales and revenues, then all you do for the first 90 minutes of each day is you do revenue generation and value creation activities. Then you take a 15-minute break, and then you start again and do another 90 minutes, and all you do is value creation and revenue generation. So if that's the reason why you're working, discipline yourself to do just that. Don't do anything but that for the first 3 hours. We don't turn on our computers until noon. Now, the first time you do that, people will go crazy because it's like taking the dope away from people who are addicted. They go into convulsions, and they will go into convulsions. But you'll have to do it yourself. You'll have to go through your own convulsions first, and then you'll have to pass it on to others.
We live in a world where focus is more valuable than even your intelligence. An addiction to distraction will be the death of your creative production. I mean, if you watch most performers today, you watch most people in business today, you watch most people in your community today, they are addicted to the entertainment of video games. They are spending the best hours of their days watching dancing cats. They are wasting their human potential hooked into some social platform that is creating empires for other people. They're not living their human potential. They're not living their economic potential because they're hooked to a screen. It is the most frightening time in the history of the world, and it's the most gorgeous time in the history of humanity. Most people are lost. Most people are hooked. If you want to achieve the results only 5% achieve, you've got to think and produce and behave like only 5% of the people on the planet. And the best people on the planet in terms of creativity and productivity are not spending their finest hours addicted to distraction. They're doing real work. And so I want to walk you through a number of protocols that will really help you multiply your productivity in the finest of ways. For the next 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes of your workday on your single most game-changing opportunity. And research has shown that the morning hours are when you have the most focus, when you have the most energy, and when you have the most willpower. And so you want to use that first 90 minutes. The second piece of technology to create exponential productivity is what I call tight bubbles of total focus. Your environment is so important. And if you look at B performers or C producers, they really don't pay a lot of attention to their environment. And so they get very distracted. There's lots of noises, their phones are going off, maybe there's news in the background, maybe there's messy environments all around them, maybe there's toxic people. The way I run my work life, on certain days, I am very hard to reach. I mean, I see a lot of people, and it's not judging them, it's just observing them. Every time their phone rings, they check it. Or they have, these loud notifications. So they're constantly being distracted. If you are being distracted by notifications, checking your phone, checking your Twitter feed, checking your Facebook feed, looking on Instagram, checking all the different platforms, that is going to destroy your focus. The way I do it is I have certain days that I label as creative days. And on those creative days, I actually go device free. On those days, I go to certain places, I call them my Menlo lab, and that's where I do my best work. So install where you will do your best work and get your best ideas. The next piece of technology that will help you create exponential productivity in your work life is choose your peer group really, really well. If you want to be a high performer in terms of your productivity, populate your life with high performers. Now here we are in the modern world, and what happens? Subconsciously, we are modeling the behavior of the people we spend most of our time with. If you are around people who are mediocre performers, you will subconsciously start behaving like them. Why else is it important to surround yourself with a peer set or a social orbit of A players? Emotional contagion. You are around a social circle of people who are inspired, people who want to do great work, people who want to be ultra productive, people who want to be innovative, people who are relentlessly optimizing their work, their thinking, their creativity. Just being around them will allow you to adopt their energy and their ways of being. And then the final technology for you to create exponential productivity is what I call learned minimalism. Now, I've worked with a lot of the most creative and productive people on the planet.
If you look at the greatest empire builders economically, Musk, Steve Jobs, great example. He lived in a pretty simple house, even when he was a multi-billionaire. He was only about a few things, my favorite things in life, books and sushi.
If you look at a great artist, they didn't fill their work days and their personal lives with a lot of things. They filled them with a few things. And if you look at any great artist, any great entrepreneur, any great business builder, any great author, any great humanitarian, they were monomaniacally focused on one thing. They were minimalists. And so what I want to leave you with is this. Maybe this year, rather than having 50 projects that you want to achieve at the highest level, maybe pick 3. This year, rather than trying to read 20 audiobooks, 50 ebooks, go to 5 courses, I am encouraging you to really adopt this thinking protocol of becoming a minimalist. Even your home, fill it with just a few things, right? Even your work life, just a few projects. Even your clients, just the highest leverage clients.
You've got to identify your target. Let nothing stand in your way. If you don't keep your mind on what you're doing, if you don't keep focused on the task at hand, it could slip right on by you. Whatever you're supposed to be doing for the moment, do it. You can't be thinking of everything you have to do at one time, all the time. You have to concentrate on just one thing at a time, one project, one job. If you don't, you won't accomplish anything. It takes a lot of discipline not to answer the phone every time it rings at home. Concentrate on the work at hand and demand of yourself the discipline to stay focused. If you have a long list of things to get done within a day, do the toughest ones while your concentration is at its peak. Don't let your mind wander. Stay focused. You never know what important points you'll miss. When you recognize the need to concentrate more, when you recognize this need, and when you discipline yourself to stay focused, it will come easier and easier. Focused concentration can be learned. Focused concentration can become a habit. If you work on it a little every day, discipline yourself to be where you are. Work at work and play at play. Wherever you are, be there. Concentrate.
My belief is that about 80% of success or failure, maybe 90%, is caused by either clarity or lack of clarity. If successful people have one common characteristic, they're all very clear about who they are and what they want, and they have clear written plans to achieve their goals in each key area of their life. Unsuccessful, unhappy people who are troubled by stress and anxiety are very unclear about who they are and what they want. And so therefore they move from pillar to post. They're knocked off center very, very easily by unexpected events. So what we do in Focal Point is we start off with the principle of clarity, and we teach how to achieve clarity in the 7 key areas of life. The first area is business and career, in family and personal relationships, what it is you want and how you can get it. In financial life, how do you achieve financial independence specifically? Health and fitness, how do you live to 80 or 90 years old? And then we talk about clarity with regard to personal and professional development goals, social and community contribution goals, and inner and spiritual development goals. So therefore,